a height of 1 meter in the section of the trench.
It is quite possible that climate changes in the 17th century triggered off sand dune formation over Talakad and other places on the banks of the river Kaveri. But this was only the beginning of a long process of sand accumulation over Talakad. We discovered some interesting facts to support this. The Anandaswara temple was built towards the end of the 17th century in the southwest corner of the sand dunes at Talakad. An inscription dated 1718 AD mentions that a member of the Wodeyar family gifted a chariot to the Kirtinarayana temple. Then, in 1760, the Gauri Shankara temple was built. Why did people donate chariots and build temples in a city covered by sand, or facing imminent danger from sand? Obviously, the impact of the sand had not reached alarming proportions. So when did it actually happen? The 1895 government report gave us a possible answer. It was only around 1830 that the sand had advanced to such an extent that the villagers were forced to move further inland. Until then, the sand was confined to the riverbanks. It was only after severe deforestation that the sand advanced rapidly over Talakad. This was a significant occurrence at Talakad in the early part of the 19th century. And interestingly, it fitted the interval we had expected, 1800 to 1876. The onslaught became such a threat that from the early 1870s, the government made a concerted effort at restoring tree cover over Talakad. By the early 20th century, the advance of sand dunes was controlled, though it never ceased. And what about Malingi? Geologists tell us that Malingi and Talakad are two sides of the same coin. It is a common phenomenon to find sand beaches forming on the inner bank and erosion taking place on the outer bank of a meandering river. Malingi being situated close to the outer bank of the Kaveri, there is nothing surprising about the erosion here. Strong currents are often seen here when the water levels are high, and this is because of the peculiar topography that has emerged from the erosion taking place along the bank of the river. Especially the rocky ledge, which protrudes into the river's path. With no further clues at Malingi, we turned to the history of the Wodeyars around the 19th century. After the assassination of Bettada Chamaraja VII in 1776, an adopted child, Kasa Chamaraja, was nominated and installed on the throne by the army commander Hyder Ali. Kasa Chamaraja continued as king, but all powers were vested with Hyder Ali and later his son, Tipu. Kasa Chamaraja died in 1796, leaving behind his infant son as successor, Mumadi Krishnaraja Wodeyar. But the infant was not nominated to the throne by Tipu. The Wodeyars were ousted from power for the first time in their history. But this was not because of the failure to beget a son, for Krishnaraja was the natural and legitimate heir to the throne. The infant Krishnaraja's mother sought the help of the British East India Company to get back their kingdom. An epic battle, called the Fourth War of Mysore, was fought at Srirangapatnam. Tipu was defeated and killed in battle. With this, the city of Srirangapatnam saw an end to its long and tumultuous history. The Wodeyars left a city that they had all but already lost. Under a treaty with the British East India Company, the infant Mummadi Krishnaraja Wodeyar was installed on the throne in 1799. The Ganda Barunda, the two-headed eagle insignia of the Wodeyars, once again prevailed, from the city of Mysore. In the early years of Mummadi Krishnaraja's reign, Mysore drifted into social and political disorder. His administrators enforced brutal taxes on his people, who were reeling under severe drought and famine. Unable to endure their misery any longer, an armed insurgency of the peasantry began in 1831 and spread rapidly throughout the kingdom. The king failed to contain the growing disorder. Their interests at stake, the East India Company intervened and subdued the uprising. Mysore receded into further gloom in 1848. Lord Dalhousie, the then Governor-General of the East India Company, forced into effect the doctrine of lapse, whereby if the ruler of a protected state died without a natural or legally appointed heir, his country would lapse to the company. The kingdoms of Oudh, Jhansi, Nagpur and Satara had fallen victim to the doctrine of lapse. Mysore's fate remained uncertain. In 1856, Lord Dalhousie declared, "The Raja of Mysore is now 62 years of age. He has no legitimate son or grandson, nor any lawful male heir whatever. He has adopted no child. The territory of Mysore will then have lapsed to the British government." Never before in their 450-year history had the failure to beget a son threatened to end the Wodeyar dynasty. We came across two events of significant importance in the 19th century history of Mysore: the 1831 peasant revolt and the doctrine of lapse, both within our time interval, 1800 to 1876. From our findings, we looked for an explanation to the mystery of the Curse of Talakad. Could the verse be a construct? If so, how was it constructed? Why was it constructed in this way? And when did it take root? The verse could have been constructed from two independent legends: the Wodeyars' fear of Alamelama after the incident at Malingi in 1610 AD, and the legend that Buchanan records during his journey in 1800. A woman drowned while crossing the river from Malingi cursed that Talakad be overwhelmed by sand. When the renewed onslaught of sand occurred in the 19th century, a new dimension might have been given to the old legend, with the replacement of the woman by Alamelama. Malingi then provided the common point between the first and third stanzas of the curse, Talakad and the Wodeyars. And when could it have taken root? During the 1831 peasant revolt? In a traditional society, and to a great extent in all societies, rumours and legends were, and are often, used to mobilise people and opinion against an opponent. The legend portrays the Wodeyars as a cursed dynasty, with its end imminent. The prevailing discontent would have been an ideal time for the curse to take root amongst the people. By some quirk of fate, the legend served the designs of the British under the doctrine of lapse. The relevance of the curse to this period is justified by the fact that, once an adopted successor to Mummadi Krishna Raja was installed on the throne, Rice's Revised Gazetteer of 1897 mentions that the third stanza of the curse was of no effect. But why this construct? For the very reason it fascinated us. Combining two natural phenomena to a genealogical part makes the curse profound. It is almost impossible to link the sand at Talakad and whirlpools at Malingi with the genealogy of the Wodeyars. The legend was a dramatic construct, basing itself on a real incident that might have taken place at Malingi, in which the Wodeyars had played a part, and a perfect inclusion of an older legend that had explained the sand dunes at Talakad. We had found reason. Almost. If the incident at Malingi had indeed happened, then what about the genealogy of the Wodeyar rulers? Had Alamelama cursed Raja Wodeyar that his dynasty would fail to beget sons? Did his sons die because of her curse? Did the line of direct descent in the Wodeyar dynasty end because of Alamelama? And why that strange pattern in Wodeyar adoptions? Are all these events just a mere coincidence? As long as the strange pattern in the Wodeyar genealogy continues, we can only remain sceptical of any rational explanations. We must wait for the truth. Only time will tell of what happened 400 years ago. Can you hear the whispers?